And I think let's start to wait all kind of detoured. And I'll call it detour because it was unplanned. You did not think in your wildest dreams you'll be here every day, all the time, just hosting a podcast and looking at spaces. Tell us how you got here.
We're not gonna cry, ne?
No,
because I don't have a tissue near me.
No, girl.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thanks.
if we do, we do. So, you know, I've been very much a corporate person. I've had corporate roles, and I think I've done well for myself in corporate. Never ever thought I would do anything outside of corporate until I think it was around 2016. A friend of mine and I started an insurance company. And at the time I was young, maybe ignorant is not the right word, but young and hopeful. You know, nothing could stop my dreams. I was going to do it all. And we got funding from the PIC, and we built a fully fledged insurance business.
Successful.
And it was successful. We did 10,000 sales by the end of it. And then come COVID 2021, it all falls apart. But in my career, I've always been the kind of person who will get retrenched this month, and then a month later, I've got a job.
Yeah, summer season.
Yeah.
It's been your life.
That's what you call it.
And then winter landed.
Yeah, winter landed.
Yeah.
And winter actually started when I lost the business. I've never actually thought about that until I had to reflect back. And then I think about 3 months after we decided to liquidate the business, it was called Yalu Financial Services. I got a job, and I thought to myself, I have landed my dream job.
It was.
Oh, and I remember you getting messages from people saying your friend has arrived, and I was like, my friend, we have arrived. And I did. I believed for a while, and for a while I was in this kind of romantic space with the workplace, and I was on my honeymoon. When the honeymoon ended.
And it unexpectedly.
It ended, and I got to realize that this is not the right space for me. It wasn't the right space for me mentally. It wasn't the right space for me emotionally, particularly given the loss I had just suffered with my business. And so that space took a lot out of me. And I had people in that role who had reported to me previously. And I think it's always such a compliment when somebody who has reported to you previously comes back and says, I want to work for you. So 2 of the guys that reported to me in that role had reported to me in other companies. And they both applied for the jobs because they were like, we want to work with you. And the one lady would always say to me, this is not the Tlalane I remember. This is not the Tlalane I remember.
Which it wasn't only work that saw that. I think there's a time as well when I'm like, but where are you?
Yeah.
We've lost you.
Yeah.
You know, as much as that was a big loss that just really changed the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
What it did.
Yeah.
We gained you back. You gained yourself back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you want to reflect on that, on how you're coming back to yourself, because I think you're still on that journey.
I'm definitely still on that journey. So this space, this platform was actually created from a very deep space of pain. A space where I went through feelings of rejection. I went through feelings of, where do I belong? Who am I? I've always defined myself by virtue of my role. I have sat on Excos since I was 32. So I don't know anything different, you know. And for all of that to not be here anymore when I left this role in this job, in this company, because I just, you know, it just wasn't the right space for me. And I'm sure that people who thrive in that space, I didn't. It was an emotionally draining space. And, you know, I had to go back and think about, you know, what does it mean? Who am I? You know, without the corporate roles, without the titles, without the excos, who am I? I'm still very much on that journey. So if you ask me today, who am I? The answer might not be the same as it was even 3 months ago, and it might not be the same 3 months from now. So I did get lost a little bit for a while. And I mean, really lost, like in bed, not getting up, kind of lost. And so this was one of the things, this podcast, that pulled me out of bed, that got me to look forward to doing something at least once a month. But it takes a lot to put it together, you know. So it kept me focused.
Yeah.
And then I tried a business, which was the worst decision I'd ever made. A business, which is how this podcast was born, out of a business called Space Fanatics. It might not have been the worst decision because it kind of evolved into this.
I think every experience you've had, it's placed you here. It was your journey, it was your path. As much as we look back and you're like, but that didn't make sense. Why did I? But when you look back and see where you are, the building blocks are from that. But do tell us a little bit about Space Fanatics, you know, because that for me still speaks to you're a space fanatic yourself.
I am a space fanatic.
And that's a dream. I don't think it's completely gone.
Yeah.
It's just you're still on.
It's evolved.
It's evolved.
Yeah.
So I think speak a bit about that.
So Space Fanatics was a business I started with the intention of going into people's homes and decorating and refurbishing, maybe even eventually getting to a point where I could build from scratch. It was a dream, and I had big hopes for it. And it was stemming from the fact that I'm a space fanatic, which is why the name Space Fanatics. I partnered with a friend at the time, and you know, it just didn't. I think sometimes when you have done well in your career and you've done well in corporate, you assume you can just take all of that and apply it in business, and it's really not like that. And I had a successful business in 2016, a very successful business with Yali Financial Services. So I think I took it for granted that Space Fanatics would take off. And it didn't. It went through lots of difficult times, but like we say, this idea, the podcast, was actually originally, and if people go back and watch that first episode, it was originally a platform we built to facilitate the spaces that we're creating, and we wanted to demonstrate and show people this is a space we've created and this is why we made the choices that we've made. And then I started getting people saying, you're so conversational. We want real conversations. Oh, you had the Tlalane, who was the Naila Acha entrepreneur. We want more of those kind of conversations. And so we kept it as Space Fanatics, you recall, for a long time. And then it dawned to me eventually that, at the end of the day, I may be a space fanatic, but I need to be open to the idea of using my passion for creating beautiful spaces in a different way. And that's why for every single guest we do a different set, because that is my opportunity of bringing out my space fanaticism. And I'm still able then to do my deco thing and to create beautiful spaces. And so one of my biggest lessons in the journey of this podcast is that we sometimes limit ourselves to thinking that our passion needs to exist in its most natural form or in the most expected way. So I'm passionate about deco, which means I should be an interior decorator. Not necessarily. You can take your passion for interior decorating and apply it to something else, and you create magic. I also, in my reflection around that, said to myself, especially when I was having conversations with my guests and asking them, like, how has your passion or your fanaticism shown up in your life? And realizing that it always has been there from the very beginning of my career. And that's what made me such a great marketer, because I'm a creative at heart. I see things, as marketers, the way we see creative is not the same way that a consumer or somebody else would see it. So it made me actually appreciate that my fanaticism for interior deco, which is really a creative process, is why I did so well as a marketer.